Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another exciting episode of All About You. In today's segment, I will be going over a Naruto TCG deck profile. So a lot of you guys were asking me in the comment section below from my last video, hey Ann, can we get the deck list of what you played? I decided why not? Why not do a nice little deck profile of the Naruto TCG? And this is one of my favorite decks. It's called Good Card.deck. It runs a lot of the most powerfulest cards in general in the game, all compact into one specimen, and you guys are going to really love and enjoy it. I will go over why I'm running certain quantities because we are playing based on a restriction list. So you guys are going to see what I have restricted in my list, which is considered the New York / East Coast list, and we're going to get to it. So starting off, we run 3 Subiru. So this card is extremely strong for what it does. Essentially, its main function is that when you use it, you can remove it from the game. In that case, you can negate one of your opponent's ninja effects. It's a blocker / mission phase, so it's only during your opponent's turn that you can use it. Not only that, but it provides as a 0 drop. So we're going to be going in order as far as the turn marker curve. And it's just very good. It's a dual element, so we have fire and water, so it can be used as hand cost. And of course, the effect is very good. So that's just something for you guys to know. And not to mention, in its characteristics, it is a tuning. So there are some situations where tuning will play a role, and also being leaf. So moving on to the next. We have 2 Kisuges. Kisuge is a very interesting ninja card, because for one, he has dual color, so he has fire and lightning, which again can help with your cost. But not only this, he has a very good effect. So his ability is valid when he is removed from play, of course, due to the showdown. He can come back with a coin. So you put a little coin on him and he comes back. It's a ghost, I believe it's called a ghost coin, and he will just come back and be able to be a full-fledged ninja all over again. You just move him right back into the battlefield, and it's great. It's just amazing because you can continually to reuse this one guy, which is very important, especially when you might be losing one curve. For example, you have a turn 0, which is him, but you don't have a turn 1, or you're missing your turn 2. So if you're missing any early game, he can substitute for you to keep that hand so that you can continue to your powerful later turns. And not to mention, he has ninjutsu as a little combat attribute, which is going to be very helpful. So he can use cards that I'm going to preview in the deck. And he's also Anbu, which is very useful for what this deck can do. Now we have Solo Attitude. Now Solo Attitude Sasuke is definitely a card that's very debated. He is limited to 2 in our list. Previously, all the other cards there could be placed at max capacity. So if you wanted to run 3 Kisuge, you could, but to me that would be clutter. So Solo Attitude is basically the strongest 0 drop in the game. There's nothing better, just nothing better. When Bandai released this card, a lot of people were using it in an abundance of 3, and it made NVS decks very strong. If you guys know Destin, he was definitely an avid user of this card. So all he is a 5-0 beat stick, and you can't team him up with anything. That's why he's called Solo Attitude. Additionally, if he isn't valid, so if he does get injured and he's placed in this mode, you can just easily team him up. So if he ever gets injured, you can actually team him up, and it's useful. I do it all the time. We have Hotaru. This is another very strong 0 drop. During its set release, it was one of the heaviest cards, one of the most heavily played cards. So when you play it, you flip a coin, or odds or evens, whatever you have. If heads, you draw a card. If tails, it gets a growth coin. So what makes this card very interesting is that if you play it, which is why I run 2 copies, if you play it and you get heads and you draw a card, you have the ability to potentially growth over her and get tails, which will allow her to get 2 growth coins, which means that she will be hitting at a 5-2 on turn 1, which is just extremely strong. So a good example is you play Hotaru first, you draw your card. On turn 1, you play Solo Attitude, and then you growth Hotaru, and now she has 2 growth coins, and now you have a very strong setup. So that's just giving you an example of what you can do. And she has 2 mental power, which is very useful for what this deck can do, and her combat attribute is ninjutsu, so pay attention. And being water, wind is very useful. And last but not least, from the 0-drop lineup, we have Hinata. This to me is the best Hinata that was ever released by Bandai, and it has its own alternate art. So essentially, Hinata Awaken is a card where both effects are valid. If your opponent has more than 5 cards in their hand, they discard until they have 5. So there was a theme that allowed you to lower your opponent's hand size. So if you have multiple of these characters out, you could essentially have your opponent only having like about 2 to 3 cards in hand. But the setup is ridiculous, so it's not, this first effect isn't the best. The second effect is where it shines. So when it's sent out to block, you can put a growth coin on Hinata. So being able to do that is just so important because you could play this card extremely defensive. A good example would be on turn 0, you went first, you play Hinata. Your opponent's turn, they play a drop. Let's say they play the solo attitude that I showed you earlier. They attack you. She's a 0 combat. So she would get OV'd. A 5 difference means outstanding victory. So she would now, you can use her to send out to block. So during that phase, she'll get a growth coin. So now she's sitting pretty at a 1-2. She would now take a damage. Now she's a 2-2 on injure status. Great part about this is the following turn, you could play a ninja to team up with her and either play defensively, continue to play that passive game, or if you're strong enough, you can start sending out. But the great thing is, every time you block, she keeps stacking. So there are games that you can get a ridiculous amount of coins on her. So she's very strong. She's definitely a very strong 0-drop in the game for what she can do. And then, of course, you can use her later on for squads and reinforcements and whatnot. So now we're going to the turn 1 lineup. I run 1 Naruto Uzumaki clone. If you wanted to play more, you can. Its effect is when this ninja is put in play, you can search your deck for a clone status ninja card, reveal it, and add it to your hand. So we have 2 targets in the entire deck, you guys are going to see, but it's just a very good card. Going on to the 1 lineup, and not to mention, it's also dual color. So notice there's a trend of it being dual color in this deck. We have Kabuto Yakushi Database. Now, Database was another card played. When this card came out, it was extremely powerful card. It was played throughout its entirety until it got banned/rotated. But anyways, when you play it, you can search your deck for a water mission card from your deck and add it to your hand. So that's all it does. But for it being a 1-drop to tutor any water mission or any color, if you have a dual or tricolor mission that happens to have the water symbol, you can search for it. So that's very powerful. Additionally, he is a medicine, so he has the medical trait. Medical means that you can use certain jutsus, which you will see in this deck. That is very effective. Now, he is restricted to 1 in our list. That is why he's only played at 1. We have Shion Awaken, is another card that's only played at 1, and she is amazing. So Shion Awaken, when you play her during your turn, you can choose to remove her from the game and give your opponent 3 battle rewards. In that case, you can remove a ninja from your opponent's field 4 or less. So she's good for getting rid of threats that may be a nuisance, but not only that, she can control the game. So she's a card that if the game is balanced, she can pretty much put the weight on your side of the balance scale and you're going to be winning. Or if you are winning, you can maintain continually winning. So she's a win more card / if it's a stalemate, she can help you get the edge. Not only that, but she can be used for squads like the Naruto Shion squad, which we will go over soon. I run 1 Karen. She can be played as many copies as you like. She's a very strong card, valid, EOJ, and mission. So she can be used during the EOJ/mission phase. You move 1 card into your opponent's, from your opponent's discard pile into their chopper area. So this is the cost. A lot of people did get confused when this card was released during set 22, and they didn't understand the interactions. So since that is a cost, essentially cards like Hidan, Immortal, if you guys are familiar with that card, which I will show you in this deck profile, Its cost is to give a battle reward, and it puts itself in play from the discard pile. Karen's ability would always put Hidan into the chopper area, so when they give you the battle reward, you would just put him right into the chopper area, and you would just win a free battle reward, which is amazing. So Karen can heal your ninja. Her ability is she can heal one of your injured ninjas by using this cost. Now you have to remember that a cost is played before its effect takes place. So you can activate cards even if you do not have the requirement, as long as you can pay the cost, which is essential to know. And she has the medical combat attribute, and not only that, but she has ambush, and she has a mental power of 2, which makes her very useful with also being female. Now, last but not least, in the 1-drop lineup, we have the little innocent Ino Yamanaka. So childhood, this one is very good. So her ability is valid at the start of your turn. This is before you draw, ladies and gentlemen. You can mill 3 cards from the top of your deck. In that case, draw 1 card. But it requires you to have at least 5 mental power or greater. So a lot of the ninjas that I previewed, a lot of them have mental power 2 or greater. In the early turns, they have exactly 2, which is very good. So you can build that 5 mental power relatively soon. As early as turn 1, and turn 2 is pretty much a guaranteed deal. So her effect will be triggering by turn 2 if you start off with the mental power route of this deck. This deck can go many routes, so you'll see in gameplay me switch it up. That's the beauty of this type of deck. Now, our 2-drop lineup. We're gonna kind of speed through it a little bit, so I'm gonna reveal these three at a time. We have Biscuit, Sakura Haruno, and KNS. So I'm gonna preview these 3 because they're the only 2 drops of this deck. And notice they are 1-ups. So Biscuit is restricted to 1. He's just a very annoying card to deal with. His ability is during your mission phase, you can put him into play from your chopper or discard pile, essentially for free, as long as you control 3 ninjas in board that have either the fire, slash, or lightning attribute. So if they have the fire attribute or lightning or you can do that, which is very important because he becomes essentially a free character on the board every single turn. So you could just play him. If he dies, you just play him the next turn. He's like Shootborn Frog in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you know that card. Then we have Sakura Haruno, which Booksmarts is one of the best turn 2 drops in my opinion in the game, but within a control format. So her ability is when you deploy her, you draw a card. Additionally, anytime you deploy a ninja with a mental power 2 or greater, you draw a card. So notice how I have so many ninjas that have mental power 2 or greater. It's going to be triggering her effect. So you're going to draw tons of cards with her effect. And her in conjunction with Ino and other cards, you'll just be drawing a lot of cards. And then KNS is basically the best 2-drop in the game. I honestly don't see any better than KNS. So his ability is, for 1, he has 4 mental power for a turn 2. He is the highest stat mental power ninja. He has clone status. He's leaf. He's female and male, so he triggers off multiple different abilities. He has growth, which allows you, if you want to play more than 1, you can. In our list, I believe he's at 2. I could be wrong, but I believe he's at 2. I'll double check that for you guys though. But anyways, he has 2 abilities. When he's played, you can reveal the top card of your deck and place it into your hand. So you automatically replace him. So he's a break-even card off rip, which is very good. The same way she's a break-even card off rip. Then her second ability, their second ability is that valid. Every other Leaf Ninja in this ninja's team is protected by your opponent's ninja effects. So that goes for anything. If your opponent has Kitamaru State 1, if they have any effects that just target your ninjas in general, you can basically be shielded. But keep in mind, they can target the KNS himself, and that will basically stop the immunity. So you have to be careful, but it's very strong for being a turn 2. It has ninjutsu, combat attribute. It just has so much going for it. This card is probably one of the most overstated cards, or just overly text cards. So anytime in Naruto you see a card with a lot of text, odds are it's pretty snapped. So that's our turn 2 lineup. Our turn 3 lineup, we're gonna reveal it at the same time. We have Naruto Uzumaki Reliance, we have Sai, we have Toby, ran at 2, and that's pretty much it. So, We'll start off with Naruto Reliance. Naruto Reliance, he is exceptionally well. In my opinion, he is one of the best 3-drops ever featured in the game. He has all the basic characteristics that you need for Naruto, which is very essential for him to be played correctly. Now, Valid, when you play him, when he's deployed, you get to search your deck for a lightning or wind mission card and add it to your hand, or you can search your discard pile for a lightning and or wind mission card and add it to your hand. So that's extremely powerful. Not only this, but then he has a second ability, which is why he's a ridiculous, just a ridiculous card overall. And that is that he gives all your Leaf Ninjas +1 support. And not just on this Ninjas team, your whole board gets +1 support if they're Leaf. That's insane. So you can basically add, when you have a team of 3, you can add an additional 2 power, which is ridiculous. It's just insane. Now we have Sai. Now Sai is very cool because 1, he has the Anbu attribute, he has 2 mental power, and he has 2 effects which are useful. You can discard 2 lightning chakra when he's put into play, and in that case, you put a growth coin on him and move your turn marker up by 1, which is insane. So he becomes a 5/4 ninja, healthy, and a 4/1 injured, and you get to boost up your turn marker. So from turn 3, you can go to turn 4, and you're on turn 5, which is very cool. Then he has a second ability, which I really do like, and that is if you pay 2 earth, you can select one of your battle rewards and add it to your hand. So he has that VR flip theme kind of going on for him. And he's dual color, which is very good. Like you can see the little theme over here. And then now, last but not least, we have 2 Togis, Man of Mystery. A lot of people have it at 2, 1, or 0 in their restriction list. In our list, he's at 2, so you run him at 2. Whatever number this card is at, you essentially run it because it's a filter card for 2. So at any point in the game, you can reveal this card during the mission phase. You can remove it from the game, so it got errated. So if you look at the text effect, it says like put it to the bottom of the deck. That was errated to remove from the game. In that case, draw 2, discard 1. It's just a very good filter. It helps you pretty much, so if you're missing ninjas, if you're missing your 0, your 1s, your 2s, your missions, whatever, you can use this card to have an advantage. For our 4-drops, we have Kakashi, Anbu Days, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hidan. So we have these 3 powerhouses. So this guy, he is restricted to 1. Very strong ninja card. Actually, he's relatively overpowered. So he has a lot of great stats. But what makes him really a force in the game is that when he's put into play, you can put in play any Anbu ninja card from your discard pile or your chakra area. You can cheat out bigger drops with this guy. So you could cheat out a 5-drop, a 6-drop, or whatever drop. If it's Anbu, you can play it. Now, moving on, we have Sasuke Uchiha, which you can run as many copies as you like, but in this deck, I play 1. He has great characteristics, but what makes him good is that when he's put into play, you can search your deck for up to 2 cards and add them to your chakra area. So he combos a lot with many things in the deck as this. So I can, let's say, play Sasuke on turn 4 or growth him over the solo attitude on turn 4, search for him and search for the guy that I need to bring out with him, then just play him and then play the guy. So if I have a solo attitude in play, I can make some ridiculous plays with this one guy. You're gonna see me do some crazy stuff in some videos to come. And then last but not least, we have Hidan, Immortal. This is the guy I was talking about with the Karen interaction. So Valid, when this ninja would be removed from the game, you can discard him instead. So he's always going to be in your discard pile, at the very least if he's ever removed. Now what makes him crazy is during the attack or mission phase, you can give up a battle reward. In that case, you can play him from your drop area, so from your discard pile. He's a 5/0/5/0 beat stick, just a very, very strong card. He's a free ninja that you could play on the board. When this card got released, I was one of the first players to play this and incorporate it in the decks, and it became a staple. So it is what it is. It's just a very strong card. Now, we have our 5-drops. So we have Deidara, Itachi, Uchiha, and Yamato. So starting off with Deidara, he is an amazing guy. As you guys really know, I'm going to be saying a lot of cards are amazing. So Fury Wrath, attacker mission phase, you can pay 1 earth or 1 fire. You can discard one of your ninjas. In that case, if they're 4 or less, you win 1 battle reward from your opponent. If they're 5 or greater, you win 2. He can discard himself, guys, so pay attention. You can always pay 1 or 2, pay the 1 earth or the 1 fire, and you can pop himself to secure game. So very useful card. Your opponent, the moment they see this guy, they're on like a clock, because you can use your own ninjas to continue your advancement in winning the game. Especially when you have cards like Hidan over here, where Hidan can be popped. You can use his effect, pop him, then give your opponent a battle reward and play him. So it's like you never lost anything and you got a free battle reward. It's like an even exchange. Or with the Biscuit. Remember the Biscuit Ninja Dog earlier? You can use Biscuit and pop him for free and then play him the same turn, which is insane. Anyways, now we have Itachi Uchiha. He can be cheated out. He's an Anbu prior to before, when I told you when you could play it with Kakashi Anbu days. He can play any Anbus. These 2 battle cards are Anbus. So this guy, when he's played, your opponent has to play with their hand revealed at all times, which is insane. His second ability is quite interesting as well. If your opponent has more than 2 copies of a card, so 2 copies or more of any card, whether it's 2 missions, 2 jutsus, 2 missions, whatever it is, 2 ninjas, etc., you win. If he wins a victory, if that team wins a victory, you win a battle reward. So you're basically a battle reward Kakashi, if you guys remember that guy. And then last but not least, we have Yamato, which he, to me, is a very overpowered card. During the exchange of jutsu, if you have a total of 12 mental power or greater, you can select a mission or jutsu card from your discard pile and add it to your hand. That's during the exchange, so that happens during your turn or your opponent's turn, which is simply insane. So that's that for these guys. And now we're going into our mission lineup. We have 1 NEL, Never Ending Love. It's a turn 1 mission card, 1 hand cost, win earth, either or. You draw 3 cards, and in that case, you cannot organize. You skip your organization for the turn. Just a very strong card. In people's list, it's usually at 1 or 0, and our list is at 1. So our list is more friendly to playing overpowered cards, but there's still a balance where you're not going to get OTK'd in a turn. We have our list geared for some power plays, for excitement, but it can be argued that there are not that many other cards to play. So when you start to see the list, you'll see that it almost seems like you're dealing with a smaller card pool. So some players decided to ban or restrict heavy on a lot of the cards that you are seeing played, because they want to use other cards that, in my opinion, are not that good, but everyone is entitled to how they want to play the game. So now we have Access of Evil. This is the other turn 1 mission card. Access of Evil, we run 2 of it. You could run 3 if you would like. So it's a great thing. So first of all, if your opponent has 5 battle rewards on you, so if you already are halfway losing the game, you double everything on this card. You just +1 to all the abilities. The effect is you search your deck for a card and discard it. So in that case, you would search your deck for up to 2 cards and discard it. And then afterwards, you shuffle up and you draw 1 card. And if you have the additional effect, you draw 2 cards instead. Very strong card, interesting, balanced, while also being flexible for strategies. Overall, just a good card. Next, we have Shikamaru's Decision. I'm going to show all the turn 2 missions. We have Monster Research. We'll just go with these for now. So Shikamaru's Decision is a great card. You target one of your ninjas. You get to search your deck for a ninja card equivalent to the mental power or less. So if you have a 3 cost, 3 mental power ninja, you can search for a 3-drop or less. And then if it's a female, you reveal the card and then you shuffle up and you draw 1 additional card. So you just draw 1 card if it happens to be a female. If it's a male, you just add it to your hand, or if it's anything else, you just add it to your hand. Then Monster Research. Monster Research is one of the best mission cards. One of my good friends made it. His name is Eric Malone. So anyways, this guy, he won Nats. He won our Nats during the year 2011, if I believe. And all it is you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. In that case, your opponent gets to rearrange them in groups of 2. They can choose, let's say, 3 cards here and 1 card here, or they can choose 2 and 2. So that's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they can choose 4 and 0, but no one would do that. You could also choose 0 as an option, but no one would do that. So that's pretty much it. If you need to stop your opponent, you obviously, like if you know your opponent's gonna get something crucial, you just put the 1 card aside so that they're forced to go neg and basically lose 1 card in hand. But Monster Research is still a powerhouse card because it essentially still got you what you needed regardless if you have to limit your options. We run 1 Ceiling Barrier. Now this card is definitely usually banned on a lot of lists. We have it at 1 in ours. So Ceiling Barrier is a counter card. There aren't that many counters that you've seen of this deck so far, so we're about to get to it. You can only activate this card during your opponent's mission phase, and it has to be turn 2 or greater. You get to designate a card type, card name, essentially. Whatever the card you designate, you get to look at your opponent's hand, and if they have it, you get to remove that card from the game. And additionally, you get to search their deck for all copies of that card and remove it from the game. So what made this card very strong is during the format that this card was released, there was a card called Long Awaited Reinforcements. It was a turn 2 Fire Earth mission card that said, you search your deck for any ninja, you add it to your hand. If you do not play that ninja, if that ninja does not get deployed for the turn or put in play for the turn, you have to discard your entire hand. So this card, during that time, Long Awaited Reinforcements was the best one of the best turn 2 mission cards that we had featured in the game. So Ceiling Barrier was like a direct counter. They would long awaited reinforcements, you would let it resolve, then you would activate Ceiling Barrier. And then you would target the ninja that they called out, and they would end up losing their hand and essentially losing the game. This 1 card could allow them to lose the entire game. Then, aside by that, we have Interruption, which Interruption is a commonly known card. It was used heavy during its release. Its effect is you target 1 mission card being played, you negate the target, in that case, shuffle it back into their respective deck. So if your opponent used the mission, that card gets shuffled back to the deck, and that's it. And you're able to stop them from advancing from missions. As you guys know, missions are very important in this game. If your missions are getting negated, it's gonna pretty much stop you from building steam and consistency for your deck. All right guys, and now last but not least, we have our 3 turn mission cards, okay? So in this little section, we have Uncle's Memories. Now this card is restricted to 1. When this card was released, I was abusing the crap out of this card. Me and a few other players, but I believe it was more so myself, this card ended up getting restricted because of how I played it and how I used it. So you get to, when you activate it, you can move up to 3 cards in your chakra area to your hand. What's so powerful about this card is when you incorporate it with a lot of water cards that have the ability to manipulate chakra and take chakra from your opponent and add chakra from your discard pile to your area, to your chakra area, it's insane. So I was able to use this very effectively during that format, and I was dominating. I was just killing it, winning big events and topping high placements with that type of deck, and then it got hit, you know. Then we have Invasion of the Akatsuki, which is very strong. This card is not limited, so you don't have to worry. You can use as many copies as you like. When this card is played, you can search your deck for Rogue Ninja and add it to your chakra area. And then the effect is your Akatsuki and Rogue Ninjas in your chakra area gain ambush. So this is a direct search. You know that Sasuke Chibi card that I showed you? You can activate this, search for the Sasuke, then use Sasuke to search for the Kakashi and Yamato, or Kakashi and Itachi, or just so many combos. There's just so many combos in this deck that you can do. And now moving on to the Jutsus. So we're gonna move towards the 1 cost all the way to the bigger cost cards. So we have Reanimation Jutsu, Byakugan, and Flower Petals. So very strong cards, very crucial, and they're all limited to 1 in our list. So Reanimation is you target 1 injured ninja, you can target 1 injured ninja, heal it, and in that case you draw a card. The effect was changed so that you have to actually heal the ninja and draw the card. If you don't have a ninja that can be healed, you cannot use the first effect to draw a card, because there is actually a loop where if you have 2 of these, you can continuously recycle them and draw your entire deck, which would be cheese, especially in the OTK deck. Now, the second ability is that if you have a medical combat attribute, you can move one card from your discard pile and add it to your hand. So it's insane because you draw one card, so it replaces itself, you heal a ninja, and then you can move any card from your drop area into your hand, which means that you can abuse certain card effects. Then we have Byakugan. Byakugan is also restricted to 1 for what it can do. For 1 earth or 2 generic, same way this one's 1 win and 2 generic. In this case, you target one of your battle rewards. So now, hypothetically, let's say this card is in my battle reward area, right? And it's face down. They have 1 battle reward for me. During the exchange, I activate this card. I flip up this card. For every symbol it has, this card has 2 symbols. It's a water and fire mission card. For every symbol it has, you get to select that many amount of cards from your opponent's hand at random and discard it. So in this game, the most we ever had was tri-symbol, meaning 3 cost card where it could have been fire, water, and lightning, for example. This card is effective in this deck because more than half the deck is dual colored. I would probably say about 70 to 75% is dual colored. So your odds of this card is very high, and it just makes hand cost just extremely easy. And the requirement is nothing. Anyone can use it. Now this guy is a bad one. This card is very strong, and this was under the radar for a while in the beginning of the game. There was a few players that was able to really make this a powerhouse, but it was low-key. It was just a low-key strong card. So what it does is requirements ninjutsu combat attribute. It costs 2 generic. For every amount of jutsus in your discard pile, you can target 1 ninja on your opponent's board and deal that much damage. So essentially, if you have 2 jutsus in your discard pile, you use this card and you deal 2 damage, which means that you can kill off a ninja card. 1 damage is equivalent to an injury if your opponent's ninja is in healthy status. It's a very strong card. It just requires ninjutsu. I hope you were paying attention to the cards that I told you earlier that had them. Now, we have Tsuchigumo Big Bang, we have Fear by Genjutsu, and we have Infinite Embrace. So these are all the cards. I am going to just organize it nicely for you guys to see. So essentially, we're going to start off with the Tsuchigumo. It costs 1 win or 1 lightning. The effect is you charge one of your cards and draw 2. That's it. It's like activating a mission during the exchange of jutsu. That's what it's equivalent to. It's a break-even card, but being able to generate chakra is very effective. This card is limited to 2 in our list, and some lists is limited to 1. So depending on what format you're playing, you're gonna either see this at 1 or 2, and obviously in an unlimited list, everything's at 3. Fear by Genjutsu. Fear by Genjutsu is considered one of the strongest jutsus in the game. It literally targets every ninja battling against the user. You make them stand by. Additionally, if you have the Genjutsu combat attribute, you can deal 1 damage. So Kakashi typically has that attribute, Itachi, a lot of ninjas that have Sharingan will be able to use that, including a few others, but those are the primary users of this type of jutsu. Last but not least, you have Infinite Embrace. Infinite Embrace just costs 1 win or 1 water. Similar to like most of the other cards in my deck, they only cost 1 element and everything else is generic, which makes them very strong. In this case, Fear costed only 3 generic, so you can see where that's at. The effect is you target 1 ninja battling against the user, you flip a coin, heads, they become chakra, tails, they go back to their respective hands. So if it's your card, it goes back to your hand. And you draw a card. So you get a draw card effect if you do put them back to their opponent's hand. Now we're gonna go based on the squads, and then we'll be wrapping up the video. So the squads I'm not going to take too long going on because I don't want this video being too long. We run Naruto and Shion. This is just to lock your opponent's drops. That's all it is used for. You call out a turn marker, and anytime your opponent would play that card, it gets removed from the game instead. We have Naruto, Uzumaki, and Sai. This is a way to get cheap battle rewards from your opponent if your opponent organizes wrong or happens to be in a weak position. We have Sakura and Sai. Very strong card, in my opinion, one of my favorite squads. All it does is it controls your opponent's ninjas from being sent out to battle and negating their effects. You essentially force out your opponent's ninjas out to battle and their effects are negated, which is very strong. Danzo, basically a beat stick. If you do it correctly, you can get up to you could get a lot of growth coins on him, but they errated him to Ninja Blade coins instead of growth because there was a lot of cards in the game that can abuse that. We have Kakashi and Sasuke squad, very strong squad. When they come into play, you can choose up to 3 of your opponent's ninjas and you give them -1 coins. Additionally, the ninjas with the -1 coins cannot use jutsus. There was an actual theme based on this, but it didn't go too far. We have Naruto and Sasuke. Essentially, you can use a jutsu for free. You name a jutsu and you can use it without paying its cost. We have Hidan Curse Mode. Hidan Curse Mode is amazing. He basically comes out, you pay 2 energy, 2 chakra. In that case, you deal damage to him and you and your opponent loses 1 battle reward. So he just constantly keeps the flow, the tempo. If you're up ahead of your opponent in battle rewards, it becomes a big advantage. If you're both tied, but you are the attacker, you have the advantage. If you're both at 9 and he hits himself and you go both to 10, you win the game as the attacker. Remember, attacker wins by battle rewards. Defender, which is blocker, wins by deck out. Deidara, CO form, one of my favorite cards. This card alone kind of forced cards to be errata as far as the growth coin mechanic. He can essentially blow up the whole board and you can pay 3 earth to save 1 of your ninjas, which is very strong. So just keep that in mind because that can be very powerful. We have Itachi and Sasuke. They're just good for manipulating the board and hurting your opponent's chances of winning the game. You can injure ninjas and make ninjas 0/0 status. So just a great way to put pressure on your opponent and manipulate stats and pretty much hurt your opponent. We have Naruto Uzumaki, the Hokage. He is just a very interesting card that was released towards the later part of the game. You pay X amount of chakra. In that case, you can search your deck for a leaf ninja that meets this requirement and put it into play. So he can start free playing ninjas, especially if you're behind or you need ninjas to squad up, reinforce, whatever. You can just use it to deck in, search for free guys. Little keynote, you can pay 0, and if you paid 0, you can search your deck for free ninjas, which is very strong. Then we have Sage Mode Naruto, one of the most expensive cards in the game that's not an alternate art. He allows you to use your discard pile as your chakra area, enough said. And not only that, but jutsus that are used this way, they go back to you just keep reusing your jutsus in any card that you pay cost as. So any cards you pay cost as in your discard pile, they go back to the bottom of your deck. So you also can replenish your deck while manipulating what goes back to your deck so that you can essentially draw what you want to draw. Not only that, but he has Mastery, which is just insane. A lot of these cards have Mastery, which if you guys don't know what Mastery is, when you use a jutsu card, you can pay an additional energy, additional element cost, and it has to obviously match whatever the jutsu is. So if it's an earth jutsu, you have to pay an earth cost, and you can put it right back into your hand. Mastery was very nifty and useful. We have Naruto Sage Mode. This guy is just a beat stick that can come out early. We have Sasuke Uchiha State 2. He's pretty insane, but he's a little late. He can basically use fire and water jutsu cards and give them effects. So anytime he uses a fire card, you deal damage. Anytime he uses a water card, you take chakra. And then last but not least for our squad / reinforcement deck is Pain and Itachi Uchiha. This guy, all you need is 1 of them to go into this squad. Normally squads, you require the ninjas that are on them. But in this case, the effect says if you have Pain or Itachi, you could just go into this. You get to draw cards when your turn marker is at a certain point. So odds and even, you have effects where you draw a draw card or when you put your opponent's turn marker down. This card doesn't really do that much overall, but as the turns keep progressing, your opponent will start going -1 turn marker and you'll start going +1 in hand. That's what it does. For its turn marker, it's not the greatest, but it does have Mastery. It does have a lot of little cool attributes that you can use it for. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. This was the deck, and it's a very strong and powerful tool. It's not easy to play because of all the choices you have, so just keep that in mind.